off by thanking the Green Party of Hawaii for continuing to keep the party alive. Although we haven't had too much electoral action for a while since the Jacobsons retired to do their tea farm, we still are on the ballot for till 2022, and that's great. And when I asked to run last election, the party was in good standing, so I really appreciate that. And I think a lot of people across the state are aware now that the party's still alive and going well. And there's a lot of excitement on the other islands that the party is still there, even though we haven't been able to get a lot of candidates going for the last few years. So I just wanted to point that out. That I think there's future hope, as Mark had brought up, because of all the integration. I guess it's a generational thing too now that younger generations are growing up and they're not affiliated with either of the other older parties. In fact, most people in America are not party affiliates. And when they vote, they're more independent, especially the younger people don't identify with either party. So the Greens, if we can stay alive, we might just by default have a few younger generations growing into the Green Party because they identify with it as something that stands for the four pillars. They're becoming more and more evident that those are related to each other: social justice, environmental. Grassroots democracy, and
social justice, nonviolence.
Yeah, and those organizations that belong to used to be like separate organizations in the nonprofit world are now starting to work more and more together. And in my campaign in 2012, a lot of that became evident that there are people coming from all different, not just environmental movements and grassroots backyard fights, but from the social justice, people that were involved in equality for gay marriage and for issues against war, or social justice for people that are mentally ill, or whatever their issue is that they rally around in their day-to-day lives, homelessness, these sorts of issues. They're starting to see that maybe the Green Party is distinct from the other two, in Hawaii in particular, because the thing that resonated the most is we don't take corporate funding. And therefore, this might be a little different than the two parties, because every group that fights for some sort of issue revolving around these four pillars run into the same people that control our lives through corporate power. And that's sort of out of not just my election last time, but some of the other candidates that ran for House in particular at the state legislature. They had this sort of quasi-dissident faction, but a lot of those people that came out to support him were a coalition called IKEA. Have you heard of IKEA? And it was made up of people that came from all those distinct labor, environmental groups, social justice groups, from whether you're advocate or home, all these different groups came together for the first time in a long time in Hawaii to try and target a few of the candidates, mostly on Oahu. And they formed a group called IKEA, which I belong to now too. And a lot of younger people. And they sort of rallied around the working person and people that are feeling the 99%. I think a lot of it came out of that whole movement as well. And they're still going. And they were able to rally during this session down at the Capitol against GMO and the PLDC. It was the two sort of focused things this year. Of course, the GMO labeling didn't pass, but the PLDC did fail. And there's some PLDC babies there. One of them just failed yesterday, Bill 70, and some of them are moving, but
the conference committee's over now, so
yeah,
we shall see what the chafe.
Right. A couple of them already snuck through. The one that Neil Abercrombie wanted for the schools, school land, to take public school land. That one Neil was holding our legislators supposedly hostage for the budget, which I didn't buy. But anyway, so I just wanted to inform you that, because of our stance too, IKEA came out big time for our campaign, big time, even more than any other candidates. At first, I was actually irritated with them because they were a little afraid to come and support a green. But Eric Gill, who some of you remembered, convinced them that they can't just go with the safe candidates that they know are probably going to win. They got to go and show force against the most powerful guy, and that was Calvin Singh. And so they did finally, at a kind of late date for me, because I had asked them from when I announced, actually, come help me, come help me, come help me. They waited till after they waited till after the primary. So I was hitting the pavement by myself pretty much with I did build a nice grassroots organization. People just came out of the woodwork too, from all over the island, and joined our campaign. I didn't know a lot of these people. And one of the people that came from Maui and just showed up at my doorstep was Lance Collins, Nikki's friend from Maui, who's the lawyer, who, along with, for some reason, a slew of lawyers showed up to walk door to door with me. I mean, I never had that many lawyers.
Maybe that's
But these are like independent, not corporate lawyers who are, like really good nonprofit lawyers and things like that. And they were the best. So they decided, a lot of these recent bills that were going away, taking away all the public goods, the resources, PLDC included, but a whole bunch of other kind of, dirty land use bills, they decided it's time that, we stand up, because otherwise they're going to be spending the rest of their lives in court fighting these things. So that's where Lance Collins from Maui came to our campaign and started helping out a lot. And the evening of the elections, we got word from people in 2 precincts. We only had 4 precincts in District 4 from where I ran. And 2 of the 4 precincts were having difficulties during the voting period. They had run out of ballots in those 2 districts. One that was more towards Wilhelmina, Rise, and Kankakee, and the other one was the one for St. Louis Heights. And I was winning in both. And that's where they ran out of ballots. And then they started giving wrong ballots in the St. Louis polling place. And nobody knew how long that was going on until one of our supporters first screamed, "Hey, wait a minute, where's Keiko Bong's name on this ballot that she was given after waiting for ballots to show up?" They waited 4 hours for ballots, and people walked away. So we have no idea, we don't have any idea, we don't know how many people walked away. And we don't know how many people got the wrong ballot, because we know at least one guy got the wrong ballot, walked out, and then later on realized, oh my God, where was Keiko's name? And then he came back to tell us, and by that time they wouldn't let him back in. To this day, he doesn't know what happened to that wrong ballot. But the woman that did notice it went straight to the observer, I guess, and the people helping her, and that happened to be one of our supporters as well. So he said, "Hold everything, stop." And, they're not supposed to look at the ballot, right? And they did check it.
not the filled out ballot, but they could look
Yeah,
at
they
the
finally looked at the blank. Somebody looked at it, and they were giving them ballots from Hawai'i Island, Bert Kobayashi's district. So they were voting for Sam Sloan and Bert Kobayashi.
That seems like a bipartisan collaboration.
Yeah, it was like the worst, in our district, that's like the worst, because they're all these Republicans. Anyway, so they're like, wait a minute, what's going on? And that's when they called down an elections, and they couldn't get anybody. At that point, it was so screwy. And, there were these these young people running the thing, he didn't know what to do, and it was so messed up, so they called, that's when we got a call and said, hey man, you better go and check out what's going on and get a green observer in here. So that's when Lance started scrambling and calling you, Nikki, and, you know, everybody, can we make Lance the spokesperson? We need a legal entity. And Lance Collins, along with the 4 other lawyers that were following the thing, we had this legal team. All of a sudden, we marched down to the Capitol looking for Scott Nago to get an answer what the hell was going on.
Who's the election?
And that was before the
Head
doors
election.
closed. That was before the ballots were closed. We got down to elections, and nobody would talk to us and let us see Scott Nago. He's not available. Oops, he's not available. He's not available, he's not available. And the press is going, wow, what's happening with her? And so we appointed Lance to speak on behalf of the Green Party to the press. And it was so messed up. And then we find out, you know, League of Women Voters is getting word also that 22 other polling stations on Oahu ran out of ballots too. So it wasn't just my district. At first I'm getting paranoid thinking, they're targeting me. It's, you know, it's Calvin saying in the 2 precincts who are winning. Anyway, but so that's basically what happened. And then when we spoke with the League of Women Voters, they were starting to try to figure out what they were going to do, and they went in and requested an internal investigation. But we asked them, do you want to go a lawsuit with us, because we didn't get an answer that night. We couldn't even get an observer in. Nobody knows, and you know, all the answers they were getting, oh, too late, you know, too bad.
24 hours to decide if you're gonna challenge it.
Right. So everything went kind of fast that way. And the League of Women Voters didn't want to go into a lawsuit, so that's when the question was posed, well, do you just do an internal investigation with the state? And we've all asked for internal investigations. That's like asking, you know, them to do something for themselves, and they're not going to do it. Yeah. So we decided that's the Green Party, if it does stand for, you know, true grassroots democracy, might want to take this one on. But we also our legal team said it would be good to do a statewide, not just a local District 20 focused internal review and request for administrative rules, because that seemed to be the problem. So we actually narrowed it down for them, because apparently they had no rules. They were just saying, oops, you know, there's no requirement to get ballots out in a certain way. So they were like, they weren't following any kind of plan, basically. And so that's sort of the quest, and the Green Party stood up, and then we immediately went island to island to try and get a rep from the community advocacy world. So on each island, Maka'ala, Kaumoana from Hawaii, you know, Maka'ala, yeah, and then we got Karen Holt, who's been very active on Molokai with her nonprofit. She's pretty much, you know, umbrella for every nonprofit in rural Molokai and Maui, very active in Maui County. And then Moani stepped up over here in Moani Kalakaka to be a Hawaiian name too. Karen's also part Hawaiian, and Moani is married. We wanted this sort of Hawaiian presence as well with Hawaiian. And then of course the Green Party combination with that made a statewide and green presence for social, for transparency and grassroots participation. So that's the case for that. Simultaneously, the gentleman, Calvin Say, that I ran against, the second most powerful, you know, we took on the second most powerful elected official in the state of Hawaii next to the governor. And, you know, he didn't live in the district. He broke the first rule of running for office. There are only 3 requirements to run for state office. You have to be a resident of the district, well, U.S. citizen, a resident of the district, and 18 years old. Okay, so the first one is resident, and he's not a resident. He doesn't live where he says he has lived for 20 years. He hasn't lived there. And then he's apparently a U.S. citizen, and he's over 18. But the one that, you know, really counts is that he's a resident. Sure. So there have been 3 cases challenging him before the residents of my district challenged him to a legal case now, challenging his residency.
In previous election.
Yeah, in previous elections, they put in internal complaints to the elections, the county council, you know, the county clerk's office.
Yeah.
You know how far that'll go. Both of us, both of the Jacobsons been in office. County clerk's positions are very political. They won't do anything. They're not gonna fuck anyone.
Mayor one.
Yeah.
Jimmy Arakaki shouldn't have been allowed to run, and he served.
Right. They
won't do anything.
They won't do anything to any elected official for fear of their political job. So, Lance Collins is also steering that lawsuit as well, with 6 residents from District 20 challenging Calvin Say. And it's gone to district court, where the judge decided that it was supposed to go back to the county clerks for a decision. And Lance told her, no. There's already precedent on Maui with the Saul Kaho'oholo case, and that it actually belongs in the district court with the jury or something to figure out what to do with this guy. Or, she could just, decide as well, I think. But the thing is, it looked really political that she made that ruling right after she was appointed by Neil Abercrombie, who's very close to Calvin Say. So it's now going for an appeal to the Supreme Court, and probably will be bounced right back to Judge Nakasoni's district court. Now, the timing is really important. If Calvin was kicked out during the 2-year period that we have now between now and the next election, the Democrats would put in 3 names, and Neil Abercrombie would pick from those 3 names, someone to replace Calvin Say. So we were already gearing up in our district to find 3 people to put in the names, because a lot of the progressive Democrats sit in the precincts for Kalolo and Kabuki in that area. So everybody was scrambling. We had 3 pretty decent names, in which case, if they were picked, I might not have to run for that position if we picked Marvin Heskett or somebody like that. But it's looking more and more like it's going to be stalled for a while to go to the Supreme Court. And so whether I'm going to run or not is really contingent on what happens, whether this is stalled or whether or not we have somebody decent in there. So my election, I left with a debt, not a big debt, but I didn't even fundraise. We just went in blasting. And so now I got to clear my little debt and raise money if I'm going to run again. And then the $500 that we borrowed from the Green Party went straight as a filing fee for that one lawsuit. Every time you file, you got to pay $500. And so Lance needed that he paid the other $5 for the residency thing, but he needed the $5 he didn't have enough money. So I've been scrambling to do pretty much direct solicitation for fundraising for both Lance's campaign, which I think I'm going to have to raise about $5,000 for that. If we're going to go to the Supreme Court, so we have 2 cases.
Question, and those cases are Hawaii Green Party versus State of Hawaii?
The one for the administrative rules is Hawaii Green Party versus the State of Hawaii. And the one for the residency has 6 residents with District 20. Some are Greens, but I don't know if they're a good standing.
So, I think the presentation was 15 to 20 minutes, and we are 15 minutes ahead of our schedule, so we're doing pretty good. However, I already feel, I know I have 1 or 2 comments and questions, and there might be others, so I'm just going to ask that we extend this another 2 or 3 minutes, but I don't want to put a time thing, but just make it as brief as possible, and then, so there can be some comments as far as that. And then maybe on the new business or old business.
Okay. Yeah, if I'm getting too frivolous, just tell me or something.
Well, just our timing, and I have a couple of things I want to add.
Okay, So I just wanted to come today to tell you that the 2 lawsuits are gonna continue, and I'm trying to raise the funding without doing too many events. But if we can't get the money, legal defense for these kind of open government lawsuits are really hard. You know, they're not that charismatic and things, and people don't like to give money to legal defense for suing the state for democracy or democratic, you know, it's not that glamorous, so. People that I thought would give money, just they're being really stick in the mud. So I'm thinking I might have to call for an event, and I was wondering.
Go for what?
Some sort of event or
Fundraiser?
fundraiser. Yeah, and it might have to be multiple events. So I'm thinking that through, and I just wanted to let you know that as well. In which case, I will talk to you more about it as a green event, maybe possibly on 2 islands or something like that. And they don't have to be big, they can just be like dinners and something like that.
Okay, so,
Where we have the lawyers come and tell a story
and you're done?
and have bands.
I see Renee and, so maybe, at this point we can take a little comments and questions. So I have Renee, I have, and then Craig.
I don't
And
have
Jeff.
a question, but I would like to make a motion, and then we can maybe do discussion as part of that whole thing, and since, the case has been filed as Hawaii Green Party versus State of Hawaii, I would like to move that we forgive the $500 debt.
Second.
For just point of clarification, it's officially Green Party of Hawaii, not Hawaii Green Party. Green Party of Hawaii. Okay, discussion, Renee, you made the motion and it was seconded.
Should this be under new business since we're right now in her report?
I don't think it's necessary to make any more discussion than that, I think that's self-evident.
Well, it's a presentation, so the will of the body, if we either, because if there's a motion, we discuss it now, or we could put it under new business as a motion.
I'd rather just approve the motion right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I'll just make a comment then before we, I'm gonna speak against the $500, and I was thinking of some amount less than that, and I know at the time when Lance asked me, and you asked me both, and I talked to other people, it was sort of an urgent, but it's like over half of our money. Now, what are we using for our money? But it's like over half our money. So I'm pulled, like the one hand, so I would think like maybe less than 500, and that would be a discussion for the coordinating committee to see how much. But I would not want to give the entire $500, and that's just my feeling. Now, if I'm a minority, then that's fine. I'll go with the will of the group. But I just think it's, you know, it's like it was over half of our money, and at the time, I really felt like that's why I wanted to put in that non-interest loan, because I want to feel that it is something that will get paid back at some time, and that we can forgive part of it. That's my feeling. And again, like I said, if the majority wants it, the whole thing forgiven, then I'm just part of the group. Then I think Jeff was next. No, Craig was next, and then Jeff, and then Bob.
Yeah, I just had a question. Can you tell me approximately the amount of your campaign debt?
Mike,
Yeah.
not the,
Not the lawsuit, but your
I think
campaign
it's
debt.
about 10,000 right now,
Thank you.
yeah. I think I paid it down to like,
Jeff, and then Bob.
oh, we raised,
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
We raised, I didn't get all my figures, I think that maybe 15 or something like
And
that,
spent
really
25.
less, and I didn't even like solicit.
Yeah.
So, I couldn't, we were moving too fast. So I did a little bit like one-on-one solicitation, but I didn't do any mailings or anything like real soliciting. So I'm gonna do a real soliciting soon, but I was torn, because Lance and I are going back and forth, should I solicit for my campaign, should I go with the green thing first? You know, I'm kinda torn because we're doing 2 things simultaneously. And then we're probably gonna hit up the same people.
She said that 5,000 is needed to go to the Supreme Court.
Jeff, Bob, and then me.
Yeah, well, Renee took the motion out of my mouth to support this, and, it's gonna be the best publicity we've gotten for 15 years, and we oughta give the lawsuit the rest of our money and raise some more. That's a separate discussion from the motion, so I hope everybody will vote in support of this. What's the money for if we don't spend it, and this is an opportunity?
Well, Bob, and then me.
Talking about the $500 filing fee.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm in favor of doing the whole 500. I think it's only fair, she is our candidate, the insult was against all of us. Scott Nago had declared war on this party, I think the Democrats all have. Some people thought it was just an honest mistake that he knocked us off of party ballot status. It was not a mistake, it was quite on purpose, and he screwed up elections in this island. We need to answer the son of a bitch and all those fuckers. So at least $500, and also in favor, we'll do some fundraisers.
Yeah.
Full passion.
Call the question?
Yeah, that would
Okay, I had a couple of comments, but I'm willing to call the question and then would want to make some comments
Did
after.
everybody get a chance to comment on this all? Mark?
I'm fine, I'm for it.
Okay, so the question's called, and then I'd like to put a stack after that, but just make a couple of clarifications on things Keiko said, and then move on to the next issue. So the question is called, is there any opposition? Seeing none, then it's
Consensus.
thank you.
Can I just comment on?
No.
Well, thank you, I wasn't expecting that, but it really helps. But I do wanna say that now that we have to raise more money, I think it'll also, if we can raise more money, bring up the profile of the Green Party as well during that process, because people will know we're raising money for an election, or open government elections issue. You know, we really care, we're actually going to lawsuit League of Women Voters, that couldn't do that. It might even help us go for the lawsuit, I'll ask them, yeah, because some of them really wanted to get into the lawsuit, but they're getting a little old.
Yeah.
Okay, Bob is after me. A couple of quick comments. Really quick on Lance, he's someone I've known for years. He's my personal attorney for a couple of suits recently. He graduated high school at 15, got his law degree at 21. He was student body president of Maui College at the time, that's now U of H. He's run for the county council a couple of times on Maui. And then he went on, as a lawyer, went on for his master's and his PhD. So the guy's, I don't think he's 30 yet, and he's got a PhD and a law
That's
degree,
really smart.
and he's one of the few people that's smarter than me. So yeah.
He's also got one of the most precedent, setting case for the Sunshine Law. The county council breaking the Maui Sunshine Law, that's at the Supreme Court right now. And I just watched him defend the Sunshine Law by himself against developer lawyers and corp counsel of Maui County, and he just ripped those guys apart. And had the Supreme Court, there's a good chance he's gonna win. I mean, they like him. And it was really pretty impressive. And like you said, how old is he, 12?
Yeah. Graduated high school 15. The other, no, he's not a Green, and though he, I believe he votes Green quite often.
Yeah,
He's not a Green, I don't believe he's a member of any party. He might have been a Democrat at one time, but I think he's not any party, and his reasons
we
for
wanna
that.
think about him, running
Yeah.
him. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody was like, we gotta run.
Well,
this
like I
guy.
said, he ran for the county council a couple times, a lot of people, and I don't want to get into Maui politics. But I did want to comment on the Salko Halahala case really, really quickly. It was decided by the state Supreme Court. This was a council member and a former state representative who said he lived on Lanai, but they ruled he lived in Lahaina. He's very environmental, so he's like a good guy to a lot of people. So there was a lot of support by the Democrats. They resented the people that were going after him. And again, this isn't the appropriate time to get into the politics of that. But this was the decision. It went back to district court after the Supreme Court ruled he was taken off the voter rolls from Lanai. So he cannot be, yet he served for 2 years on the Maui County Council, voted, and it's still in Cardozo's court. He's never made a ruling, and this is now the next election's coming up. He didn't run in 212. We're now coming up to 214. He hasn't been, and so all the rulings and so it sits. So Keiko's point, I mean, the district court, people have asked, why hasn't this judge made a ruling? So it still sits in district court about what is going to happen as a result. But the state Supreme Court ruled he is not which means he misappropriated when he said he was a resident of Lanai to run for the Maui County Council.
And Lance was his lawyer.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
So he knows the law.
He's a
and
good
it's
guy.
bizarre
Right.
That he,
Right.
in this case, they
Right.
rule one way and then
Right,
that.
so Sal's a good guy generally, and so it put people at odds because a lot of people who are against him are not good guys.
Right.
Okay, Bob?
Let's put a final note on this, loan. Thanks to everybody's generosity. We have about $500 in our treasury right now today. So we could be worse off. So when it comes to raising funds, we may be able to have some funds dedicated to fundraising, because it takes money to make money.
So, we're getting close to now, we've used up, that 10 minutes went into about a half hour, actually.
Sorry.
But I do wanna move on because there are a couple other things coming up, and so I just wanna put a bow on that, so Keiko, I'm gonna ask you to, put a bow on it as briefly as possible, concise.
Okay, well, that was pretty much what I had to report, and, if anybody else wants to ask me any other questions, feel free to talk to me later, but, I just wanted to put one thing, leave you with one thing. The state of Hawaii now has ALEC coming to the legislature, ALEC, A-L-E-C, funded by the Koch brothers. For ALEC legislation, they haven't been in Hawaii in a big way, but now they're coming. They just introduced the right to farm bill this year, discussed as a good agricultural bill. Today it's a Monsanto bill. Didn't move, but it's an ALEC, it was an ALEC campaign. ALEC has now a campaign called Green is the New Red. And Green is the New Red is a terrible brand for us, and I don't know, as Greens, we should probably be thinking about taking that green back and maybe taking it to the national, really trying to rebrand it as Green is the New Democracy or something, because Green, they are branding it to make Green equal to the #1 terror group in America. That's basically, I don't know if any of you saw, it was going around last week, was it Amy Goodman or someone that came on with talking about the ALEC campaign. It's huge. It's funded by mostly the Koch brothers. And Green is the New Red is already starting to put people in jail. Because if you take pictures of animal rights events and
At farms too, yeah.
farms and things
I
like
think I've seen
that.
some
One
of
guy
that.
got stuck in for 5 years because he was just shooting pictures of really
Abused
animals and things like that. And they're calling it green terrorism and eco-terrorism and being #1 terrorist activity in America. And so, they need somebody to be scapegoating for their new campaign, and I just wanted to bring it to the Greens party's
Yeah,
attention.
that and tied with Agenda 21, the evil sustainability thing.
Yeah. So anyway, I leave you with that, although it's not that uplifting, but I just, I think that it's really, people that are advocates at the state level are just starting to notice these bills coming from Hawaii. I've been in other parts of America for a while, but I noticed it myself.
What's sad about that is that ALEC is actually being able to co-opt some of our Dems to actually propose this legislation. I mean, typically, ALEC is just geared for the red states. Strictly just the GOP, right? Now, they are branching off, but our Dems are so
dense.
right
That's-
that they
that's
have been
dense.
co-opted. And that's
But they
how
don't mean
ALEC
red
is
like
used.
in Republicans, they mean red like in the Red
Communists.
Scare.
We're the
Well,
new
no,
commies.
Right. No, but what I'm saying is that's
The new-
where
The
they
new
actually
communists.
Right,
got
the new Cold
their,
War.
their
Yeah.
foothold is in the red
Yeah,
states.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
where they got.
Right, absolutely, the right to farm, the right to do this,
Right.
that's the model, the right to bills.
And when it means quite the opposite.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
Double speak.
So I think that's pretty, to me, it's the scariest thing, and then just co-opting the brand, because everybody's into green now, green this, green that, sustainability. It's just one more step into like distorted kind of branding.
Green's the new greens, then old green is still green, it's just green.
And then there's brainwashing.
Just to the idea of how it's so widespread that, and I don't remember the word ALEC, but I remember that there was a nationwide organization that was going state to state to get these laws about prosecuting people for just exercising their, First Amendment rights
Right,
to
that's Alex.
report on
Mhm.
that,
Yeah,
to
that's Alex.
the animal rights and the animal
Yeah.
conditions, and that's just that issue, and that it's.
Yeah,
I think
it
they
means
should-
American
I
I
legislation.
was gonna say, ALEC is an acronym, it's the
Yeah.
American Legislative Exchange Council, it's a super PAC.
And,
It's a lobbying it's the Koch brothers' new
Yeah, it's the,
project.
but AT&T, and if you look at the list of who gives money for Alex, it makes total sense what they're trying to do.
Walmart,
And it's-
Coca-Cola.
The reason they started targeting states rather than Congresses, they get more bang for their buck to do legislation at the state level than in Congress. And that's why they started rethinking it 10 years, I think, ago, or almost 15 now. They started thinking, it's easier to do it state by state and cheaper than going to Congress on some of these bills.
And I heard they were going after court, people getting elected to courts all over the country, you know, they're going after them too, and funding to get people, you know,
Right.
corporate helpers in that place too. So,
Okay, I'm gonna wrap up that discussion. That's something that, though our timing is getting tight now, that we could potentially have added to a new or old business, but it's something to think about, and of course we can communicate outside of this meeting and see what we can do in the future. So I am now gonna go to item 10, Green Party of Hawaii website discussion. I'm gonna call on Mark Van Doren.
Okay, Green Party Hawaii website is still up and running, but I have not made a lot of changes this year, other than adding the bylaws and a couple pages maybe of history. This is my problem and a lot of other people's problems. I don't have enough time to devote to my job between family and making ends meet. I want to work more on the website. I would like to all the officers have a little blurb about themselves in a picture. I would like to make it more interactive. I have ideas. I've never created a website before. This is the first one I've ever made. So it's up and running. On the positive side, we've had a lot of people contact us. Maybe 20, 30, I don't know if Jeff might know. But we've had a lot of people contact us in the last year, so that's good. But I still have dreams of making it better, and I'm doing what I can. That's it.
Okay, Bob, then Craig, and then myself.
So I do appreciate the work he's done. It's not rich and varied, the website. But as a matter of fact, we are getting those members in. Some of those people are part of our email list. Some of those people are sending in dues. So it's helping.
All right.
It's working. Thank you.
Craig?
My question is, the people who contact the website, who do they get directed to? Who's the volunteer coordinator that handles inquiries?
I think everybody in the board gets an email. Is that correct? When I get these contact notices.
Do you guys do Facebook?
No.
Could you put on stack? I'll pull against it.
I get a contact message. Does everybody get a contact
I
message?
get a contact message and you always answer it.
Yes.
And I often answer it and follow up if I don't have any real mailing address.
Jeff, you did them?
I get them, and I think I answer it, and 100 hours a week, there's no time.
Yeah, that's the one thing I can do, is I do have the time to answer these contact messages. I thought everybody got them. I don't know, Nick is gonna go and look into that. But I think most of the board gets these contact messages. I always try and, within a day or two, respond, say hi, personal message, thanks a lot for, contacting us. We can use all the help we can get. Pretty soon you'll get a message from Jeff Turner, our membership chair, and then I'll say he's also very active with the National Party, so he might take a day or two, But I always try and work out a quick hello.
A follow-up question, do they get referred to somebody on the island where they are?
No, but I always ask, it's funny, they rarely state what island they're on. So, in part of my response, I always say, hey, what island are you on? Because, that's.
And what's your name over there?
Charles.
Charles, sorry Charles. So just a couple quick things. I also want to underline what Bob said. I thank you so much for what you're doing. Sadly, it's not an interactive website, and those of us who've been to other websites can see what's available. So again, like building up membership and having elected, it's something that somehow we need to focus on creating, and someone did, I believe, make a volunteer and then disappear as far as I know, but we need someone who is a semi-professional web maker who actually is willing to take the time on.
Yeah.
And I just so appreciate, and the other thing, I mean, I'll leave it to Charles when he talks about it, but also I see the site on Facebook that Jeff Krebs, I believe, set up. A lot, people go to that, and I do get those, Green Party of Hawaii on Facebook. And, it seems like you're making answers to them, because they're getting, comments. So that's the thing, but the website really, what Craig was asking is true. We need a really interactive thing, so people, like you had to tell me that someone was on Maui, instead of them not realizing. And, the site is, so underutilized for what we could do in 21st century. So, so we still have to put out somehow creating a web designer who can actually do that and is willing to take the time, so that it goes back and forth, discussion groups or whatever, but just build up the party, and that's for candidates and the party itself. Charles?
No, I was just asking about the.
I didn't know Jeff Krebs set up a Facebook website.
Yeah, Green Party of Hawaii.
It's not AOA.
And I get all the things to it, so.
Okay.
Is there anybody else,
You're Dennis?
That's it for me.
got it. So again, that's something I just put out to everybody, and I'm not a web designer, and none of us are, and we're all over busy. We really have not taken advantage, and now websites are almost passé compared to, other things, that people are doing. So, on that note, I'm gonna move on to number 11, item number 11. It's to be 7 minutes also, and our timing is, we're almost right on now. So, Green Party US discussion, I'm not sure is that maybe, Jeff? I'm gonna defer to him to start. As the treasurer of the country,
I can get to that and then, maybe answer questions if people wanna know something I don't cover. But, financially, the Green Party United States has been bankrupt since 2008, and we're almost out of the hole. We're down to under $30,000. We hired a fundraiser 2 years ago last month, a young guy with, quality database skills, and he got our salsa.
That's not Mexican sauce.
Yeah, it's the name of a database program.
But we're not in bankruptcy per se, are we?
No.
So we're not really bankrupt.
We owe it to ourselves, to the members.
You get negative
We're
word.
not gonna say that we're bankrupt then.
No, don't put that in the minute. But we're in the hole, 30 grand, and about that much. We were
Federal
doing
government
very
is 7
well.
trillion.
The database has grown, it's proper advantage, we cleaned out the garbage. And then we did a mailing in, the 1st of December including about 3,000 or 5,000 donors from the Jill Stein campaign. We thought, aha, they're hot, they give a couple $100,000 to her, they'll become party donors, and that mailing flopped. We got enough money to pay for the mailing and nothing else at the end of the year when we were counting on our usual $10,000 margin. So we've been struggling for 3 months. Another mailing has rescued us from disaster, and another one will be out in 1st of June. So that's the financial news. Party-wise, there's a strategic planning process underway. I'm listening in on it. I'm too busy to participate, but I stick the phone in my ear and go on working and listen to their meetings, and they're doing some great work. They've done a survey, and they're gonna come up with a mission statement and a strategic plan. It's the survey's over. They're combining what they've learned. They're gonna have a pre-proposal out to members, to Greens, and soliciting feedback for a second round of drafting, and they're gonna try and have something approved by the national meeting, which, if you don't know, is in Iowa City. in, the last weekend of July, 24, 5, 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there.
And it's not Des Moines, it's Iowa City.
It's Iowa City for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm from Iowa City, so
Oh.
anything you need to know about Iowa City, go Hawkeyes.
Thank you for going.
No problem.
There's an election coming up. We're looking for a couple of good people, because there's always a few people that aren't so good at the steering committee, and they don't do anything. They think just being there is what it takes, and that's not true. So there's room for more good leadership at the national level. What else is going on?
Abortion.
You wanna report on that?
Hawaii had 2 delegates, will continue to have 2 delegates.
For those who don't know, well, Craig Thorson, was on the steering committee in 2010, when Jeff and I were on the steering committee, and Jeff still is, of course, and then, but Craig's not on the steering committee now, but he continues to be active in the
From Minnesota.
Yeah.
From
Craig's
Minnesota.
been active in what, 3 different states? California, Minnesota, and here? He gets around.
Committee stuff too, so we're appreciative that he's now a Green Party resident.
Yeah, we got him here now. Maybe we can anchor him.
Stay.
Any questions about?
Charles and then, Keiko.
Basically, I wanted to ask about the shadow government with, particularly with Colonel Wright, being the Secretary of State and et cetera, and Sherry and Jill,
Okay.
et cetera. What, is there any input?
I wanna ask about that too, and it's gonna be on the agenda tomorrow in the steering committee meeting. Jill is gonna come and answer some questions. There's the Jill Stein campaign continues on, they're soliciting money. They're having apparently a serious audit and some infractions and maybe some big fines. So there's still 2 or 3 people on staff. They're working hard, and there's almost some competition for fundraising, and they're moving on with some other things, and that's something I wanna ask tomorrow is, when are we gonna get together and know what each hand is doing? And so, I might have an answer, because I know very little about it. That just popped up, 10 days ago or less? And so they've been preparing that for a long time, and the details are a surprise to the National Party.
I have a point of clarification, and then to Keiko, and then to Craig. Is Wright, is that Colonel Ann Wright?
Yeah.
Got it, okay. Keiko, then Craig.
Yeah, I was wondering, just out of curiosity, are there any national candidates besides Jill that are popping up to run for national level seats? Any states?
Yeah,
Because I haven't been to-
people are talking about ballot access right now and making a plan towards 2016, not waiting until the last minute, and that's a lot of good work. I can't recall, but there's a couple of candidates, a couple places in the country that people are starting to talk about. I think what's gonna come out of the strategic planning in general is to focus national energy on a couple of winnable races somewhere.
Yeah.
Not the scattershot approach to spreading our resources too thin, but find a congressional race, find a legislature race, and nationally put energy into it. The same thing that the Canadians have done with getting 1 MP, and the whole party was focused on that one riding, and the same thing that happened the next year in UK, where they got 1 person in. That gets us to be a spokesperson in government, it gets us in the news, it's just the strategy that we're finally recognizing that has succeeded in those 2 places. Well, another interesting thing is some other country has proposed a 24-hour telethon fundraiser for US, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand, a couple other all English speaking countries to have a simultaneous fundraiser around the world. And we've said, yeah, we're interested when the inquiry came, and it's been decided somewhere that that's gonna happen. I just learned the last week, so this is gonna be planned a year ahead, and, I don't know the details, but it sounds like an exciting opportunity to join in on.
That UK rep, was that George Galloway?
I can't remember. It's another female that's,
It was a female?
yeah,
That was George
Car-
Galloway.
Caroline Lucas, I think in UK is the name, or is that the name of the Canadian?
I think that was a Canadian, I think it was George Galloway that was the House of Parliament.
But it's, you know, the Greens are in government in 2 more countries, major ones.
I think, Keiko, we finished here, and then Craig, I think you were next?
GPUS, with the apportionment, the changes to that significantly are Texas gains 4 delegates. A couple states lose 1, a couple states gain 1. Nevada and Utah are now inactive. Kentucky is now accredited. The Youth Caucus is accredited and gets 1 delegate. Those are the major changes with the apportionment. In Arkansas, Rebecca Kennedy is probably going to run for U.S. Senate. In Arkansas. In Illinois, 6 people were elected to city council and other various and sundry seats a week ago. California and Maine have many candidates that are going to be running, I think, this fall in November. That's the major stuff. Ballot access, like he said, is one of the major concerns because I think we're down to 16 states as of now. So we'll have to look.
I think that's gonna be a long-term staying plan for the first time, to start working right now for 2016, not try to do it all that year. They're targeting states that are doable for this coming year, and then the next year will be worked on in 15 and we'll be down to 16.
Yeah.
Targeting 46, 47 states again.
And one other point is, on the call, can you find out whether Jill Stein is running again? And is she going to be speaking at the A&M regarding whether she's going to be running again or considering it? Or is this just a campaign debrief at the
I doubt if we'll get an answer to that.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
But I'm sure it will be asked.
Time, Nikki.
See that.
Okay, any other comments or questions? And as you can see, we could spend a long time on the national, because there's always that tension in a country where we have a winner-take-all system, which is different than the proportional, which is why they do it differently in different places, and also the idea of running national campaigns when things happen local, and Jill Stein is an example where there's money going to Jill Stein but not for the national party. So we just have these tensions, and ballot access again, Hawaii is unique in that we are on it, but we have to fight it every couple of years, and some states, it's like next to impossible, Georgia being one. So every state, 50 states in the District of Columbia, has different rules to get on the ballot. So if there's no other comments on that, on the Green Party of the United States, I'm going to move to issue 12, item 12 rather, sorry, old business. We have 7 minutes. Anyone have old business? I'm just going to make 2 really quick things that we can discuss, okay, we've already talked about the website, and that's sort of old business. It's ongoing, and just, put it out somehow. I know it doesn't mean anything, but we really need to get at least into the 20th century, let alone the 21st century, with a website that's interactive, finding somebody, and I underline what Bob said about Mark, what you've done, and he took it on, and it was all new, and we're where we are because he's willing to volunteer to do that. So my comments always are not to pick on you on the
I'll keep
website.
trying though.
So, and the other one, that I want to get through really quickly, we mentioned it, oh yeah, I might have to pass that. Something that from the convention from last year that was in our minutes, the old minutes. Yeah, I'm gonna take it up now, I guess, maybe. I mean, we just moved to, yeah, I think it's better in old business and new business, that is the bylaws. I just, it's stuck because,
So we're in new business now.
well, the thing is, we're under old business, and I'm just wondering, and I can go to new business, the reason I said old business is that we talked about it last year, if the will of the body is just to go to new business, I'll move to new business, but then I don't wanna make a presentation, so I'm getting a sense that we wanna move to new business. So now we're to new business, and I'm wondering if anyone else has new business, but a reminder, we're coming to the end of the meeting, and I mentioned 3, and I know, someone else mentioned 2 others, and there's another comment that I wanna make with under new business, so, I'd like to defer, so I'm gonna defer first I'm gonna call on Renee, but I'm gonna find out what the new business are, because again, please, we're coming to the end, and I'm gonna ask the body to maybe that we go a little longer. if it
Quick
happens.
point of
So-
information before we move on.
Okay,
to
to Bob.
What I'm gonna just quote you as saying, we need a website worker and social media modernization needed.
Fine,
Thank you.
makes me sound too articulate, but. Okay, Renee.
It's okay, we have the video of what you really said.
We're gonna be thinking about bylaws amendments.
Which will be uploaded to social media.
A couple of ideas into the pot. And one I intimated earlier is that I feel that we should look at mechanisms in our bylaws to make sure that we prevent any kind of last minute hostile takeovers. And that's one item, like maintaining that 30 days membership prior to a meeting, would suffice for that. But make it so that, you can't waive the bylaws on that one. That's one suggestion. The other thing is I mentioned, before about, finding a way that members could contact each other while avoiding the pitfalls that Barb was talking about, the personal issues that some people have, like maybe having one person that everything goes filtered through. For example, if I wanna contact Nikki and I even have his email address, I could, write to whoever's in charge of that, say it was Mark, and say, Mark, I wanna contact Mickey, would you get in touch with him and ask him to get in touch with me? Something like that, and that way it wouldn't upset the people who don't wanna be bothered, right? But find a mechanism where we can do that, work that out. And the third thing would be about working out a mechanism to allow write-in voting, including none of the above as options. Those are 3 things I would like the steering committee to be looking at in terms of bylaws amendments.
I'm gonna call on Bob, and before I just make a couple quick comments to that, and that's one is coordinating committee, that's steering committee, and that's in our bylaws, and the bylaws are questionable, and there's rules on how we can change the bylaws, and just really quickly changing them is that it's presented to the body beforehand, and then voted on in a national meeting, a state meeting, which means that to make any bylaw changes, it has to happen, say, now we talk about it, or during the year, and then it comes 30 days, or 6 days, or 90 days before the bylaws get changed, and if you look at the bylaws, you'll see, and that's why I mentioned it, there are so many things in the bylaws that's why I wanted to have just a notification on our bylaws. So, to change the bylaws, you don't just vote it, we have bylaws that say how you change the bylaws, and you can't just do it here, make a comment, we have a whole slew of bylaws, so I know I just went on a little too long, I didn't mean that, to do that, but, Bob and then Julie.
Well, I think if you read our bylaws, we've got pretty good mechanisms to prevent hostile takeovers. But if you need new language, I suggest you write it and you submit it at the appropriate time as required by our bylaws. Number 2, I'd like
Email
to.
them to me then, so I could do that?
Point of
The
information,
bylaws?
Yeah, I haven't.
Renee, point of information, as we've talked about the website, and Mark mentioned, the bylaws are on the website, and that's why I keep on thanking him for what he's done. Green Party of Hawaii. And all you have to do is do a search, put in Hawaii Green Party, and it'll pop up. The old site comes and says, go to the new site. So it's all there, and they're all there, and again, I thank Bob,
Thank you.
Mark.
Green Party on
And
Hawaii.
secondly, I have 3 points.
Is that .org or something?
.com.
Why not .org?
No, .com. Green Party on Hawaii.
Just do a search. You can find it, it'll come
I'll
up.
take it straight there.
I think in the interim, until we find some way to contact one another, certainly contact me and I'll email your email to whoever, and then you can, once you have each other's address, I don't,
Yeah, I just didn't wanna put a whole, an onerous thing on.
It's not so, I'll say it's small enough membership, it's not so onerous, and I tend to just take care of those things right away. It's an in-out thing, and I know who doesn't wanna be contacted, and I'm not even gonna say. But by and large, most of the people wanna be shared. And in fact, anybody here mind sharing their email with anybody else?
No.
Okay, well, that makes it a lot simpler. And then allowing write-in voting, I think that we have, on that, we already have a nomination process that already, if we had allowed write-in voting, if somebody wrote in votes, we might have had people elected who don't want to serve, because you really have to ask people whether they want to serve and whether they're willing to do the work or not before
Renee, please.
I'm sorry.
before you start writing in, ever. And I think our first nomination thing said it, it's like contact people, and out every year, I put this in the nominations. If you have any desire to nominate somebody, check with them first, and then we can have an orderly process of people having, so we know who we're gonna be voting for instead of just at the last minute. We don't know whether they're members, we don't know if they're willing to serve, and for those people who actually participate, follow the rules as part of the nominating process, and I'm kind of a rule guy, you get rewarded for following the rules. So I think that best to keep nominations, but those are my opinions.
Oh, okay, so I'm gonna put myself behind, but I have a couple of comments and things I wanna talk about, so I'm gonna call on Jeff, Julie, and then myself.
Well, I helped write the bylaws, but it was 22 years ago. I can't remember.
A little fuzzy.
But maybe the flaw is there's nothing about acceptance, so maybe we just revisit that and even nominate people, but we gotta have a time period of how this goes so that there's a formal acceptance before they get on the ballot. Maybe that solves the problem.
That's like the nomination thing.
Julie?
Yeah, I think
No,
that,
you have to have an acceptance from the nomination.
Wait, Bob and Jeff, Julie?
that we run into this problem when we get more rush, and I'll take blame for this too, that really this year we were really slow getting organized, but it's almost like we have to start getting organized for the convention that's in April or May and February, and we didn't get anybody much lead time, and I thought that might be partly why people didn't mail it in, because they thought, I mean, there may be more coming in the mail, they're down at the post office. So I think there might be ways to make improvements the nomination process and give people a little better way to communicate and maybe give people like something like where we share information, not to get people hooked up for other spam and other stuff, but to conduct Green Party business and ask each other these kind of things. But maybe what I'm thinking is, and I don't really want to participate in this, I'm suggesting this for others who have that kind of interest, but maybe just have a bylaws committee to look at the whole thing and go, well, this could be updated and this could be updated, and then they could present something to us and we think on it, or maybe even get it out on email form and then give people plenty of time to make those decisions.
Okay.
But I'm too lazy to be a part of it, or at this point, I've got too much on my plate to want to take that on, but.
So I'm going to talk about two things as briefly as possible, and then I'm going to ask for a show. I'm going to ask for a show of hands on one of them in particular. But I'll speak to two things. One is the bylaws and the write-in voting, because those were two of the things that I wanted to bring up. As far as the bylaws, I keep on looking at them, thinking with, and Julie's made this suggestion before, and realize I also don't have the energy to do it. But just as an example, why we're so tense about it is that it has a requirement for county chairs and county committees and county people, and years ago and every county had their own money, and then it was solidified by the treasurer at the time to make it a state. So it goes historically when we used to have county committees, and so we don't follow that. And even on and I want to put this out to the body here too, the bylaws state, and I have to underline with an exclamation point, that I've been talking about this for years, that it actually requires, shall have 2 members from every county. We don't do that. We just have our officers. So I keep on putting out, if 2 people from Hawaii, 2 people from Maui, 2 people from Hawaii County, 2 people from Honolulu, they should actually be on the state coordinating committee. Now, speaking for everybody else on the coordinating committee, we have all these things going on, which is why bylaws, even though, and that's why I just wanted to make a comment that it's not that easy to change it, It's a huge undertaking, and as Jeff said, I also worked on it, Keiko worked on it, writing those bylaws, and that's why I made the comment about a steering committee, because we had knockdown, drag-on fights, whether it's a coordinating committee or a steering committee, because they mean something different, and they do mean something different with the national party. They're really different because they have a steering committee and a coordinating committee, and they fight about what their authority is. So that's as far as that. As far as write-in voting, I want to really underline that, and I want to take a show of hands, and it's not scientific. But could people, just by show of hands, and I'll make my comments, would people like to see, when you're given a ballot, having a line in there that says write-in? And as Renee asked also, it could be none of the above, but that you don't just see, for example, on this race for this year, you had 2 names for the co-chairs, and there might be somebody else that you would want to vote for, but that you just have that ability. So I just want to see a show of hands of who would like to see a line that says write-in, and then I want to speak to why it's so important that we have it.
I think that you can't just keep on going on with your thing without having some discussion. You're calling for a vote.
No, I'm
without
going.
any discussion of the vote.
I want to take. I want to take issue. I did not say that it was a vote. I said I want to see, just to get the sense of the body, where people are at with that. I am not taking a vote, so I'll do it backwards. It's not a vote. It was a show of feeling. It's just to get a sense. Now then, I'll speak to why write-in. In the past, if you write someone's name in who doesn't want to serve, and it happened years ago when we required male and female, and then when it was required, someone got the 3rd or 4th most votes, but they were male, and they said, wait a second, it says the bylaws that male and female. So a write-in, if the person doesn't want to serve, they can say, hey, I don't want to serve, and then it would be the person next, just like you. But I really think Hawaii is one of only 5 states that doesn't have write-in voting. And it went to the United States Supreme Court, and it was ruled 6-3, and it was a green lawyer at the time, Burdick, who appeared before the United States Supreme Court. States can run their own elections. So I just think it allows people, and if a write-in campaign wins, they win, and then they could say, wait a second, I didn't want to serve, and then you go, who got the next vote. But to not allow write-ins, I think, is so anti-green that that's why I'm so passionate about it. So I won't take the straw vote, because some people think that it's but that's why I'm passionate about having the write-in voting. So I think I finished bylaws and write-in. So a couple other issues, and this one I do want to get. Oh, did somebody else want to make a comment on that then? I just don't want to, because we're getting towards the end. We have 11 minutes left. And so I didn't want to have a long discussion on it, because each one could be a half-hour or 20-minute discussion. So, okay, so Julie and then Renee.
Well, first of all, whether you have write-ins on a ballot for positions, that's to me an entirely different issue than just what we're looking at here, which is a nomination process, and that really it's bad process to me to not have anybody that people would consider to be agreeing that they want to do the job. It would be like interviewing people and then asking later, well, how many of you actually were applying for this, and then ruling someone out after the fact and going to the next person, where I think you only want to consider people who have wanted to do this. And that, anyway, so that's why I don't support it. It's just not, to me, a logical process for a nomination.
Renee and then Bob.
Yeah, I have no problem about not wanting, if somebody doesn't want to run, about not putting their name on it. However, I always, and it's not only Green Party, it's anywhere else, when I'm told, pick 2 and there's only 2 names, I feel like someone's pushing me up against the wall. And I like choice. I like to have a little more choice than that. So either, if the party gives me 3 or even 4, choices, and then I can pick 2 of them. But just to have 2 and have to pick 2, that bothers me,
Well, it's very, very, I think the solution would be to get more people involved in wanting to run and get nominated. That's the solution to that. But when you just really only have, and to have a bigger group and more outreach and things to solve that, but not try to, I just think it doesn't look good, and it looks like, maybe we were all tyrants forcing ourselves on you guys, but basically I think those of us doing this work are just keep gritting our teeth and going at it, and we talked to other people, but when I talked to other people about I talked to Craig about, would he wanna step up and do something? I thought, he seems to be a Hawaii guy, he didn't want to now, but so it isn't that we haven't, now maybe we don't do enough outreach in general.
That
enough
was my
communication.
concern.
So that may be a good idea.
That maybe, once you got your two, you didn't really bother, you said, okay, we got it, you didn't really bother looking to plug more candidates in, and,
Well, I admit, I haven't looked
I
hard
don't
at
mean
my
personally,
replacement,
I mean,
but
just, you know.
I'm also concerned that I don't want someone to take it on that doesn't realize that the real characteristics of these positions are that you're doing the nitty gritty work, and I have to say Bob does a lot of this because he's got computer school, but those campaign spending reports, and that a lot of it's not really, you know, kind of glamorous, it doesn't really have an end product that looks really satisfying, and, well, we wanna get Kay or somebody else elected so that then officers feel like we're doing more than just holding a place for people to get elected, but it's really not something that people are clamoring to do, that's kind of the problem. But we'd love it, if you'd like to be an officer, Renee, I think I do ask you often when I see you and try to.
No, I don't think you have, but
Renee?
that's okay, because
Renee,
I'm
Renee,
extended.
Renee, Bob, and then me, and then, Jeff.
So what I see here is that there's two requests. One's mechanisms to prevent hostile takeovers, and the other is to allow write-in voting. I see that those are in opposition to one another. We already have an orderly nomination pattern. I don't know why, I mean, and there are plenty of people who voted none of the above. They didn't mark their full ballot. If you wanna look at the ballot, some, you know, if they don't mark the ballot completely, then the committee would have to go through that, but plenty of the ballots are not marked in some sections. But it doesn't matter, but, you know, none of the above's already on there, I feel we could add that, but I think if somebody really wanted to try and take over the Green Party, they could do a bunch of write-in votes at the last minute, show up, and vote their own thing with people who don't know how to do, you know, the campaign spending commission reports, some of the state filings, or they wouldn't do it. I mean, I've been in nonprofits where new people come in, they're gonna fix things up, they might be members that have been sitting back for a while, and then nothing gets done. Then I've gotta go, for instance, back in and refile 3 past years of taxes for the Hawai'i Tea Society.
Yeah, we're doing that right now.
And it's like, I want it, if that happened, I'd just quit the party, I don't wanna have to go back in. And the idea, I think it's a good way to have a hostile takeover to allow write-in voting, in my opinion.
There's little that I can say to just the total antithesis of that. I think the fear of someone taking over is not a reason not to have a grassroots. The Green Party stands on grassroots democracy. If there isn't anything that's more grassroots, that having a write-in ability, and not, as someone said, that they're only given a choice of two, which is the two-party system, and that's what we're given. The other one is a few years ago, someone actually put their name down on, said, I'm interested, I want to be involved, and he was a national committee member, and I think he had 3 votes in a year, and then he was gone. So he actually had his name on the ballot, so that didn't stop someone who did nothing about the national committee. Now, again, stop me if I think I like the discussion about the national committee, because we vote on things, and earlier someone said you should vote earlier than later, and I always like to vote later as a national committee to see what other people are voting, get a sense, and usually don't vote abstain. But I complained for years as a member of the Green Party that I was not hearing about the national issues, and we vote on national issues like a platform issue that I want to get a sense of this body who's sitting here. So there's a lot of other stuff that the national has a position, and the people in Hawaii might feel differently about it. So it's a two-way street. So as far as finding information, so anyway, so I want to skip over. I just want to mention that we had someone who got on the ballot and didn't do anything for a year, and so we did have alternative, you know. So to a next to Jeff.
Yeah, well, I wanna recognize concern for possible takeovers. We had an extremely inept one last year that failed, but it kinda half succeeded because we suspended our bylaws to be nice to them. But that's a recent example, and it'll happen again. And I think this write-in voting, ethic or law or whatever we're citing in America, it refers to, public elections, and and not internal organizational operations, and we're talking here about an internal organizational operation, and I think that the solution is, the nomination process, adequate timing, which we didn't have this year, and to look at the bylaw and see if it also requires acceptance before you get on the ballot, and I think that solves the whole problem of being open, transparent, available for anybody that wants to get in, and, and gives us the protection that Bob is championing about, people getting on there that aren't even interested. We had someone that apparently was interested 3 years ago from Oahu, and he never voted, he never showed up, and he got elected.
Right.
That's absurd.
3
It's a
votes.
waste of our time.
That's the same person I was talking about. Mark?
Quickly, for the record, it was not a hostile takeover last year. This is, Roseanne's people came in at the last, month or two, and I made the error because I did not know the bylaws, and I was told that I was under the impression that they can come here and register and vote, okay? And so they came here and registered, and at that point, I was in a quandary, my mistake, but it wasn't a hostile takeover. They wanted to come and vote for Roseanne. They didn't want to come and take over our party.
Majority of the ballots actually were already for Roseanne if you didn't count the people who showed up.
That's all, anyway. I don't think it was a hostile takeover.
Yeah, that's not accurate from the people that counted the ballots. I'll go to Julie.
Well, I kind of saw it in Mark's review. I felt like it was a matter of giving people the spirit of grassroots democracy, and that these people didn't, this is part of our party problem, didn't have a mechanism really to reach us. They could have gone online and then followed through and made phone calls to become members months in advance, but they didn't do that, didn't know how to do it. And I just viewed them as their main interest was just, whether we like her or not, that's a whole other issue, but it was just that they had this enthusiasm for this candidate. They wanted to come and participate and vote for that candidate and participate in that. And as you see, I don't think they did want to continue to be members of it, but I feel like what we're left with is, all right, we didn't follow those technical bylaws, that's true, we suspended them to do this, but we left that, I think there were 18 of them, those people feeling like the party let them express their voice, the party let them promote their candidate, and at that moment in time, they thought of themselves as green, so we had some people walking around with at least a neutral impression. They may not have liked what happened with Roseanne and what she did, or what all of the party, but they didn't leave with this bitter taste that they went to the Hawai'i Green Party convention and weren't allowed to participate because they didn't know how to become members ahead of time. So I thought, weighing the pros and cons of each position, that we could have been kind of more tight and technically correct. And if they were like evil people coming at it with something like, they hostile and had a Republican or Democratic or
I never thought they were evil.
one of those kind of agendas, or a corporate agenda, and then they were gonna continue to undermine us forever, I wouldn't have thought we should do that. But I felt like really what they did was they wanted to do their enthusiasm for their candidate, and I guess maybe I also knew that on the national level it was already looking like Joe kind of had it in the bag. So
Joe wasn't gonna win.
Joe wasn't gonna win, and the national presidency for that matter, yes, but anyway, it just seemed like weighing the two variables, it was better to be, kind of put the grassroots philosophy and the embracing and encouraging membership, and, let the national take 2 votes from each. And it didn't seem that surprising that she considers this her home state, and Roseanne got 2 and Joe got 2, and that seems kind of like, it didn't really hurt us if it didn't get further apart in the long run.
But I apologize for my ignorance on that, and I will learn in the future.
You don't have to apologize, because you did that last year.
We'll hang you after.
Our timing now, there's a couple other issues that I had already put down that I wanted with new business. I think there might be others. And we're at 5 o'clock, so I'm gonna ask that, we extend the timing, I don't mean to say timekeeper, but we're not keeping the timing, so I'm gonna ask if we can extend this 15 minutes and try to keep these things, as brief and other commentary. So the will of the party, is that okay that we go on another 15 minutes?
Yes, you wanted to mention the Middle East.
I don't think so, let me just check.
We're waiting for something.
Oh, I know those guys. I know everybody here.
There could be anything no one
The
said.
question
don't
is
think
whether
anybody's
this
waiting for
room
it. I
was
think we've
going
got it
to
for the rest
someone
of
else
the
at 5 o'clock, so he's gonna go check on it.
Okay.
I don't think there's
I don't
any.
believe so. 'Cause I think we're supposed to
There were
lock
some
up.
people out in the hallway before who said they had a meeting here at 5.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay, we'll find out.
You said Middle East?
Yeah, I don't wanna talk without Bob here, I don't think it's fair, so, I'm gonna just close for, but I don't want anyone leaving the tape if I have to sit here, but, you know, rather than wandering around, 'cause we'll never get back together. But the Middle East is only one thing.
In general, there's a, well, and all that makes sense. I just wanna know what is the party, but it's sort of more,
The party position on the Middle East.
well, yeah,
Nick is gonna
but there's
address it.
controversy with it, and it seems like there's those that wanna make some people pushed into a kind of more uncomfortable extreme position than.
Yeah, so I want the will, I mean, I don't wanna talk with Bob not here, but then, we're just sitting and waiting, so I'm just wanting the will of the party, and I don't wanna,
Well,
the meeting, if we can just start then.
If we're waiting for a minute, can I just put something
Casually
else on?
talk about it now.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
casually talk about it or talk about it, cause it's sort, you know.
Yeah, don't waste about it.
Okay, got it, okay, so I'm gonna, I hope I don't miss, and I have another issue, and maybe I can just rattle this off, if I could take, a comment. And this comes from when Keiko was talking, green issues, and I'm gonna leave out a whole bunch of them. But here's an example of green issues in the state, and the Green Party really is not in the forefront, and people ask me, like, what's our position on GMOs, campaign finance reform, Monsanto, same-sex marriage, marijuana decriminalization, PLDC. That's the kind of thing the Greens should have our name out there, and this is not the appropriate time to talk, but I just want people to think about that stuff. Because Keiko mentioned a couple of them, like PLDC, and like I don't think people said, wow, the Green Party was out in front of that. Mahina Martin was out in front of it from Maui, and she gets all the accolades, and you know, so I can see I stimulated a discussion, so sorry. Okay, so Mark first, and then Keiko.
Well, on that, we have put out the press release on our marijuana stance regarding Roger Christie's arrest and no bail. So we have put out that, we've addressed that. Personally, I've responded to PLDC using, my co-chair of the Green Party Hawaii for editorials and comments to the state, submitting testimony.
I
So
guess.
we have addressed some of these.
Yeah, I guess my point is not individual, because like again, those who know me from Maui, I'm Mr. Green and everyone knows that, and I always, on here, people go, what? But on Maui, I'm a whole different person, because everybody knows that, so all the issues become green. But Mahina Martin, for example, and a Democrat activist, gets the notification for being the leader on Facebook, you saw her, PLD, she's a wonderful person. And, right, that's my, so I'm not saying anything, but we're the Greens, so you make the letter to the editor, but the Green Party's not there, and then people commented about my editorial that was just in one of the papers. Oh, there's Nikki complaining again. And I wasn't complaining, because that's what they put as the headline. The Maui News put State Convention. The Maui Weekly put Green Party needs equal access, and then someone commented. So I just put out those kind of things. The other one, and then Keiko, I am going to go to you. The National Committee. When I vote and Julie votes, sometimes we talk to each other, usually we don't, but we have no idea, and that's why I want to bring up the idea about the Middle East. Because the only way you can change the national platform is to have a state authorize it, and I've never brought it to the state, and I even feel like I don't want to bring it, but I just want to let people know that I am so passionate about disagreeing with the national, and Jill Stein talked to it, and so did Rosanna Barr. It is one of the, not the only controversial things in our, so anyway, so to Keiko, and then I want to go back to that thing with the Middle East.
Well, the candidates, all green elected officials have always stood on the 4 pillars, so they know how to vote on most of those issues that we're talking about. And when you get elected, the Greens have been really consistent on what they stand on good land use policies that protect our public resources and all these kinds of things. Every one of those things fit into a category. But the Democrats, they have a caucus that actually writes up their policy agenda and sends off to the state legislature a bunch of people that speak for the Democratic Party on all these issues. And they even have a progressive caucus that comes and speaks on GMO. I think it's Juanita Kawamoto that speaks on the GMO stance of the Democratic Party. Lord Dane does energy. They all that, because they have numbers.
Right.
So, these public advocates within their party, and there are different ones, they pass resolutions during their state convention, general resolutions that give them a platform to stand on, and then they caucus and they get their approval to go out and speak. We just don't have those numbers, so I ran on the PLDC issue, everybody knew that,
Mahina, she's great.
and, you know, I followed PLDC with a lot of these people, and my mom used to go on YouTube. Mooney became like the most quoted person.
You're
During
welcome.
that thing, because she came out to one meeting where, you know, nobody could come from the outer island. You know, you saw that YouTube?
No, but I
Okay, I have to tell
imagine.
I have to tell the anecdote, and I get a call from Wanakilla, Taka. They're not coming back to the Big Island. Tell them they lied and they haven't gone to the outer islands. Mahina was there from Maui and some guys were there from Hawaii, but nobody came from the Big Island. So she goes, Keiko, your mom's there, you go speak for the Big Island. You want to say they're outraged that, you know, they're not coming back to the Big Island for the second hearing. So I said, oh, okay, I'll do that, and then I'll do my own presentation. So I went up and I said, I've been called from the Big Island to make a presentation. The people of the Big Island are very upset. You know, this is not due process. You told them you were coming back for a second hearing, PLDC, and then, you know, you lied to them, you know, and blah, 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 these issues that they all wanted me to speak to. And then my mom's there with me in her wheelchair, and I said, I just turned to her and I go, Mom, do you have anything to add since you are a resident of the Big Island? She looked at him and she goes, God damn you. All the cameras and the whole place goes up in like a roar. Everybody's like hugging her and everybody, it's like, and then one of the PLDC guys ducked and it was like, they kept looping it and she got it on YouTube and the only thing the Star advertiser covered was, God damn you.
I didn't see her doing that.
Sums it up.
And that's what I said, well, she's the woman of few words, and that's it up from the Big Island.
Summarized it perfectly.
Yeah.
See, now, Kate,
That's what we have to look for, when we get to be boobies, they do that.
see, now Keiko points out why that's so, to have a candidate, but we had so few candidates and no candidate like Keiko. So if we had a half a dozen candidates like Keiko, then these things get mentioned, but with one candidate, your campaign that does not get as much coverage, say, on Maui as it did on Oahu. And by the way, you've been on Oahu too long because you're now calling us outer islands instead of neighbor islands. And words have power. So that's my point. And yeah, I saw the YouTube, and that was my point. And I have no answer to that except for more candidates who do speak out. You know. Well, yeah. So you know. Now.
Well, they reminded me not to say outer island. No, they said neighbor island.
Correct. Yeah, so we say neighbor island. So now, here's a green issue that she just, Keiko just mentions. I think Big Island, correct me if I'm wrong, or Hawaii County people correct me, is that you guys can testify in West Hawaii for, you know, if there's a legislature.
Yeah.
And Maui's been pushing
No.
that.
For the legislature?
No, I'm sorry, for the council.
We
Right.
have 5
Right.
sites.
You can do it in
North,
Kona,
south.
Right.
you can do it in Ocean View now, and you can do it in Hilo.
Right,
They're
no,
gonna
so,
shut down the Ocean View one.
so,
They did?
Yeah.
so thank you,
Why, Mayor?
thank
No,
you for that.
no, no,
because- Thank you for that, because that's
Brittany
exact.
Smart's work is gonna be there.
Thank you for that, because Maui, in case people don't really think about it, our county council member and our state legislator, state senator serve 4 islands. So think of that. So our legislature, our council, they have to come from Molokai and Lanai just for Maui. No one lives on Kaho'olawe. Hana is a couple of hour drive, and we don't have that. And me, Nick Lananda, Greens have been pushing that, and others to get that in Maui County, and the council blocks it. And yet the state is talking about it, and finally there's a little bit of discussion in Maui. But that's a green issue, that people can sit in Maui, in Wailuku, or in Hana and testify at the state legislature. And we're always talking about that. The legislators there, now Shan Tsutsui from Maui, is now the lieutenant governor. So there's another issue that is sort of like, it's non-sexy, as Ira used to say. It's not a sexy issue, but it's important because people can testify. I mentioned a few times there was discussion. If I say something that's really off now about the Middle East, I want to make it really simple, and that's the thing that's been going on for thousands of years. The platform, and then I just want to get a show of hands. If people want to have a discussion, fine. I just didn't want to get that. But the platform of the National Party, if I say it correctly, and I want Keiko, anyone who's maybe correct. Okay, the general position of the National Party on the Middle East, Israel, Palestine, is that it's a one-state issue, right of return. So a lot of people that support Israel see that as the destruction of Israel in a short term. So that's a majority of the Green Party of the United States have voted that and support that. And I know there's people, Jill danced around it, Roseanne was a little bit more forceful, and I just really disagree with that. And whenever it comes up, I mention it. But I speak for me as a Green, and even when we look at our own platform, it doesn't say you have to agree with everything. But that's and we can talk about all kinds of things, Syria and all that. But I just want to get a show of hands here, because the movement now seems to be a one-state solution, and I know we could talk about it for hours, but I just want to get a show of hands. Am I way off? And I realize that. For the National Party, I've spoken at 2 conventions, and I get we're not interested. And I just want a discussion. I've gotten from other Green members of the National Committee that they also are bothered by it, but they just throw their hands up.
Can you
And
explain it, one state? I mean,
Okay, I was trying. Okay, simply is this: Palestine and Israel become one country. Jerusalem's the capital. The right of return that Palestinians on the West Bank can move to Israel proper, and the two-state solution is that Israel is a country, Palestine is a country. Plus, you have Syria country, Lebanon country, Jordan, and all that. And then there's Gaza. And like I said, we could talk for hours. And I brought something up the other day. If anyone hasn't seen 5 Broken Cameras, that was the Palestinian nominated documentary in the Academy Awards. And I just asked a simple question, and I thought I was I just got so viciously attacked by Hawaiians and the pro-Palestinians, and I just want to talk. What do we want to see? So I made it really simple. I see there's other hands, but the only way that I can't go to a national committee. I can't go to a national convention rather and say I want this changed. It has to come from a state, because we have 51 states generally with some that aren't recognized. So I just want to get a show of hands before discussion goes on. And I know I didn't mean to go on, and I didn't want to, because I didn't want to edge it to my side or the other side. I tried to make it neutral, which of course I can't totally. Just to get a show of hands, am I off that the people around this table, it's not all the Greens, support that the Green Party of the United States' position is that, and there's other things that go along with that, taking away money going to Israel and defense and da-da-da, that do people support the idea of a one-state solution or a two-state
I
solution?
think you need more than 2 options, that's why I keep
Yeah, I don't know,
interrupting. You're steering the discussion and the outcome by only allowing 2 votes. There's only 2 options, so recognize what you're doing.
Okay, I recognize that, and that's what I'm
No
trying to say
discussion.
is that
I'm gonna abstain.
Yeah, I haven't-
oh,
I
it's
haven't seen the
it's not a vote. That's what I said even before when someone said it. It's not a vote, and I totally agree with Bob.
You're steering.
That's I'm not steering it. I'm curious about the members because as Julie and I as representatives, we never go out to the members of the Green Party of Hawaii and ask them, what do you feel about all these issues? We have 6 things to vote on this week. And I don't go out and ask people. I sometimes call Julie. Yes, we don't do that, and I'm just saying that, and it hasn't happened for years, and I've taken issue with that. So if people feel that it's too, I know Bob is totally right. There's 20. I go to a pro-Israeli meeting and they say I'm a Palestinian supporter. I go to a Palestinian meeting and I'm good. So I just wanted to get a sense here. Now there's only 7 people here, so this is not a vote. I'm not proposing anything for Green Party.
Why don't we just discuss it
Well,
instead
we'll
of
just
voting?
All right, then.
discuss it right now.
I didn't
think
wanna-
Craig has some insight about the National Party, and maybe Jeff does, and I have some opinions about the general. I don't.
Okay,
feel
no,
anything
that's fine.
specific,
I was trying to avoid because it's 1/4 after.
But I do
That's
know
the
that
reason why.
The
Got it.
National Party to me tries to kind of push us into a more extreme position than a lot of us are ready for. I agree with that.
Thank you. So that's, but I was trying to rush it because we're already too late. Good, okay, good. So Craig first and then Jeff.
I was at a California meeting one time and they wanted to extend discussion for 5 minutes. They spent 20 minutes discussing whether they should spend 5 more minutes on the topic. So anyway, what I wanted to say is, the National Party has pigeonholed the Green Party into, there is only one answer, one-state solution. I've heard from candidates around the nation, particularly in Arkansas, who says, how can I go out to my constituents when they read the Green Party of the United States' platform saying, Palestine is 100% pure, clean right, and the Jews are absolutely, positively evil. There's no middle ground, there's no gray, it's black and white, that's it. It's a great issue. It's been discussed for 2,000 years and they don't have a solution. And we have already decided the solution to the problem before. How can we be the negotiators between the Palestinians and the Israelis when we've already decided the Palestinians are right and the Israelis are wrong? We should not have a stance that condemns one side and says the other side is right. I am in agreement with Nikki. I think the platform of the GPUS is wrong in deciding the issue before we're not the government. We're a party who wants to elect people. When we're in government, hopefully we can act as negotiators between the two parties, but we shouldn't already decide the issue when we don't know all the facts.
Thank you.
So I agree with him that the issue is too complex for us to decide the issue.
So we go, thank you for the thank you. Jeff, I couldn't thank you, Craig.
Yeah.
And that was unsolicited. Jeff and then Bob.
As someone said, those people have been fighting amongst themselves, and the Arabs have been fighting amongst themselves for 2 or 4 millennia. It's none of our business. We have lots of problems to solve. We would be better off striking that item from our platform completely, not going one way or the other. And if folks want to make a proposal from this date, I would support that. Both sides are terrorists, and you know we shouldn't have anything to say about that. So didn't know where Nikki was going in his ranting, but I guess what you were trying to say is we should petition the party to remove that right. Is that right?
Yes.
Take no position.
Yeah, I know Bob comes next, so I'm hesitant to respond, but that's it. Like I said, you and Craig said exactly how I feel, and you can see I'm passionate, and I've been fearful for a couple of years, and I only asked Julie once, and that's exactly the words, because when I go to national committees, there's a few, but I got attacked by someone, and so so Julie is totally right about 20 grams.
You're safe here, Nick.
But I didn't know that. Not always.
Relatively.
Right. Bob and then Keiko.
So I'm in this big field of races. I think we should delete it from the fight because we can't do anything anyhow. It's just so stupid and it drives people away from the party.
Yeah.
I know it's good to workers. It keeps money from coming into the party.
No opinion.
If we do this, we'll all be labeled as racist and horrible people who hate every black and everybody else in the world. And I'm not worried about that because I know where the Hawai'i Green Party stands. But I agree with you.
Stick to what we know.
Cut it out. I don't think we should. That's just one of many. And then also, we may also want to eventually take a look at our own platform and get a platform committee for the Hawaii state. Because it's only been, what, 20 years now?
Correct. And Keiko's next, and
Actually, Renee.
Renee. Okay, I'm sorry. So then Renee and Keiko and Bob and I need to go outside because it's rare that we're in total agreement.
Let's not talk anymore because we're agreeing. Let's leave it there.
Well, I agree that it shouldn't be part of the platform at all, because there's no way that our party can decide something for 2 different, countries. Personally, I'm more inclined towards the 2-country solution. And it's not just because I'm Jewish, because there's a lot of things that, especially since Netanyahu has gotten in, that I totally disagree about the policies of Israel. But I don't deny the right of Israel to exist as a nation and as what it was set out to be, a Jewish nation. And so, and I think that the Palestinians have a right to have land, and they have, they don't have a right to want to commit genocide, or to actually attempt it. And so I think we should just stay out of this one. Yep. And I agree with the rest of you about that. It's not, it shouldn't be our issue. We got enough on our plate.
Okay, Keiko, and then Jeff, and then Mark. Was that Mark? And then I'll make it as quick as I can. Keiko, Mark. It's Keiko, Jeff, Mark, me.
Okay. Well, I think, I don't know the green, I haven't read the actual National Green Platform on this. But my concern is that the amount of money that America gives to Israel in terms of, arms and military, is a big concern for me. And in fact, then does put us as a country in a position that we've taken a side, and that side has labeled us as being, the oppressor, and enabling Israel to be the oppressor in that region. And by doing that, we're separate, we're not Israel, we're America. And our weight gets shifted around the world, not just there, but everywhere else with the same light. And so, I don't know what our stance is, but I'm gonna say probably safely that isn't there an element of that in our stance? That it's military money that's going into one side that we've already taken a side in a way. America has, most presidents and everybody for a long time has been on that stance, pumping military might into the region. Which means every time Israel does something,
Well,
it's
when
hard.
Obama.
Charles, please.
So, I have to say that we should look and see what that stance is, because the Greens are for nonviolence, and that part of it would be that, our military budget really does need we need to pull back all over the world. And that's where I think we need to pump up our stance. And, if we're gonna be consistent, it's not just in the Middle East, but everywhere else. And wherever we've gone with our military might.
Jeff, Mark, and me.
So anyway, I just remind you that we are involved.
Thank you for bringing this up, Nikki, and for all of us sharing and getting it clarified. It seems like there's a consensus here that that platform plank should just be stricken from GPUS, and the mechanics of doing that are a proposal has to come from a state or a caucus. And so the question, without much further discussion on the details, is do we want to write a proposal and present it to the steering committee to be placed for a vote? Do we want to put it out for discussion on the discussion list and see if other states want to join with us? Or do we just want to write it up and put it in the hopper?
Mark and then me.
I was gonna move that we do that Green Party Hawaii, asks that we state that we disagree with that policy, and then we ask the Green Party in the United States to strike that.
Okay,
And work on it and make some whereas and reasons.
here's the challenge, just to let you, Keiko brought up so many important things that I realized by me, and I put it off last year and the year before bringing it up, but I asked Julie once about this, and when she sort of semi-agreed, is that, and to use Bob's words, it's not black and white. Again, it's not, Keiko's 100% right, which is why a lot of people resent what Israel does, and then say, however. So what I invite people, and I used to know it verbatim, that's why I'm so passionate, because I read it and I say, I cannot be a member of a party with this position. And I agree with what was said. We shouldn't take a position, or what position do we take in Congo or all these other places and our military bases, military support, yes. So that's why this irks me so much, because it's not black and white there. There isn't just two choices, as we talk about other things. There's so many choices there. And that's why I attempted to make it really quickly when I gave the position. Generally, that's the position. So I invite you to read that platform position. It's really clear. It's for basically, well, no, see, now I'm making a judgment. So I would say to read it. The simplistically is the idea. Some people who didn't recognize Palestine's right to exist before, and also didn't recognize Israel's right to exist. So it gets into thousands of years discussion. But we have taken a position, and I could live with Jill dancing around it. I could not live with Roseanne's position on that one issue, but on almost every other issue with the Green Party. So again, I invite you, but read the Green Party platform. We vote on things all the time. And these are political positions, and some people feel, no, we have to take a stand. And like I said, on Maui the other day, when I asked one question, this has been such a mellow discussion compared to people attacking when I just asked what I did right here. That's why I'm always fearful. Just ask, what do you want to see there? And it was a movie with a discussion open, and people were just, attacking. So read it, get a sense, and then again, if we decide to propose it, which I like what Jeff said, but if I was gonna vote, I would bet that the National Party would not agree with that. They wanna keep that position. That's how adamant some of
Is
the
there a
people are.
motion on the table right now?
No, there's not a motion on the table, it's
Did you
just a
withdraw your
discussion.
motion?
Just a discussion.
No, there's no motion
I thought
on
you
the,
Well, why don't we
I
just
thought
make
I
a
heard
motion, you know? I move that the Green Party of Hawaii submits to the Green Party of the United States that we disagree with their platform in the Middle East, and we would like to strike that.
Second.
okay, discussion, Mark first, and then, do you go second because you're second, otherwise I wanna go next.
That's it, we discussed it, I think there's consensus here.
Okay, so I'm gonna speak against that because again, it's not black and white. You have to read I'm gonna ask you to read it and think about it because it's not black and white. There are so many platform positions.
It's not, I don't think we should have a position, I'm asking them to strike a position. That's not black and white.
Striking a position is taking a position. If
No,
you,
it's not.
how many,
No,
okay,
it's
I'll
not.
ask Charles,
We should not have a position.
I'll ask Craig, Jeff, Julie, who've been to national meetings. Do you guys have a sense that that would be, if we move to strike it, wouldn't that be taking a position? And I might be off. My feeling is
No,
that's taking a
refusing to
position.
take a position.
Well, I think it's a valid thing to say that, I think we just got a huge uphill battle, but I think it's to say that we back off and remove our position is.
All right, then I'll support that. I just know when I brought it up at the platform meetings in Chicago, and they just said, we're not even talking to you.
Well, I think that you just.
They have to listen to us.
No?
Think about that.
Oh,
I think
if we
it's
have a
good thing
proposal.
Just to know what we're looking at, though, probably, then I don't know whether we can just propose it, and then can we change the platform one idea at a time, or then does it go to a platform
There's a,
committee,
It's
and
our
then
process.
they bring the whole
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
process?
I'm gonna call on Jeff because he knows the process, and yeah, he's right. It goes through a whole
And I
process.
remember where there was this whole big revisions of the platform from 2 years ago, and then they all got, a whole bunch of people worked really hard, and then it all got voted down. Now, that's not saying we shouldn't do it, but it may be, but it seems to me like, maybe, I thought, it's a good idea, but maybe Jeff's idea of, if we take the courage in one state to say we don't want this, and then invite other states to participate maybe, and then there might be, whether we get other whole states, or people might know at least the subject is open for discussion. And for a lot of you don't know, but people like Mike Feinstein were really vilified because they stood up on not wanting to be pigeonholed on these kind of issues. And I see we have a vote coming up on our international committee, and it looks to me like we're supposed to vote in, I mean, in the committee, it might be like, most of them would be, would be on the pro-Palestinian side based on their own, background and history. But that might make it even all the more important, that if actually states come out and say, we don't like this, then it doesn't become just so much an internal discussion of the nominees on the international committee, but it becomes more of a grassroots feeling, so.
Quick comment then to Craig, and that is that's, as long as you mentioned his name, I was avoiding it. He's the former mayor of Santa Monica, and he shared with me that people just say, fuck you, I'm not having anything to do with the Green Party if it's your position. That's how passionate. Let me offer you that this other side, and I know what people are saying there's not two sides, the other side, because when someone was right in my face in where was it, Baltimore, and they had me taking a position I didn't even take. And they're serving on the steering committee, and Craig or Jeff might figure out who it was right in my face, and they wouldn't even listen to me. And this is a green, and we're talking about nonviolence.
Do the right thing, you know?
So great.
Yeah, I think Jeff is right. I think it might have to be referred to the
fucking
platform
apologize to me,
committee before it goes to the national committee. But I don't, since I'm a bylaws geek, I don't think it has to. It depends on whether the steering committee thinks that it's inappropriate for the state to propose it without referring it to the platform committee, and so that's a toss-up. Our steering committee said okay. Another steering committee can say, oh, it has to go to the platform committee, otherwise it's just not going to fly. It is an uphill battle. I think we're going to be accused to be racist. But I think this is a noble fight, and I think we should fight it now when there's not a lot of other stuff going on.
Yeah.
We should get it clarified that the Green Party is not racist, saying Jews are evil and Palestinians are righteous.
They're all evil.
Right.
All Jews are evil.
Everybody.
All of them are.
No, everybody.
No,
Everybody.
but we should, the Green Party of the United States shouldn't have a stance that condemns Jews as evil people, and that's what several of the platform items basically say. They don't say they're evil, but they're referring to them in subtle ways, but that's what they're saying.
Well, I propose that Bob and Craig propose it, and I'm gonna split. No, I'm kidding. Now, by the way, there's a difference in Jews in Israel.
Yes.
Also,
Yeah.
there's a real
Yes.
difference in Jews in Israel because there's a lot of Jews, like Renee said, and me, who condemn what Israel does, and then you get the Jews and rabbis and the Christians that support Israel talking against you, and then you go to a meeting where there's Hawaiians chanting and Palestinians, and you say, you know, I'm just curious, what do you see happening? And they attack you as being some Republican and Tea Party asshole. And that's what whatever I brought up. So I am just stoked that this body, I get this, you know, this sense, it sees what I've been seeing for years. And I tried it in Chicago in 2008, I reported it to Bob and Julie, and I tried it in 2012, and Craig is right. Speaking about an uphill battle, there's a really, there are people that would say, I will leave the Green Party if you do take that out of the,
Good riddance.
Let them go.
yes, well, that's a matter of opinion, because as Julie says, the International Committee is getting stacked, and she mentioned the name of someone who's been elected as a mayor, and he is condemned because, I don't want to put words in his mouth, he has more of a similar take on it as I do.
It's getting late.
It's not getting late, it's already late.
So is there consensus that Mark and I work on some language and
Yeah.
submit it to the
And
The
Craig,
board
oh,
and
throw me in,
membership?
but I don't really want to do it.
I'm willing to help work on that, and I think I can convince Mike Feinstein, who is the super bylaws geek, to review it to make sure that it won't hit any hurdles of being not accurate.
Oh,
Cool.
I want to underline that because it's so great that other people will do it, and I just want to look at it, because I am too biased, so thank you, this was great.
Jeff is next.
Oh, sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm pleased we're having this discussion because for 10 or 15 years, I've been wishing that this body would take some interest in GPUS at the national level, and has usually been brushed off at this. And I've spent hundreds of hours a year at that level for more than a decade, and I'm pleased to hear you thinking and listening and about to take a public stand at the national level. And this is a really dicey issue, and so it's going to take a while, and slow and careful, and probably some politicking and enlisting other people from other quarters outside of Hawaii. And the other issue that is worth taking on, if we want to take an initiative and fix something, is the platform process of this all up or down stuff. It's a god-awful process that people ignore until they have to, just like when we have our annual meeting, and then it's an onerous task. Keiko, you don't want to read the platform, it'll take you a week. So we have to get to the point where we change it a plank at a time, and we have a schedule for how we do that, instead of everything in the world coming to an end because we have to work on this. And you just can't have people vote on the whole thing in mass. It just hasn't worked for 10 or 15 years. And so if we take the initiative to make a proposal, that doesn't have to go through the platform committee. That can go straight to the FC and straight to the NT to rewrite a better platform process. Very simple. That whenever someone wants to change a plan, there's a process to make a proposal, and then it's a permanently evolving document instead of this god-awful choking thing that doesn't come up often enough for the modern world when things change daily. I think that would probably be the first thing to do so that we would have the mechanical process to do what we're talking about here.
Do I hear a motion?
If we want, I so move, that we take an initiative to maybe find some, and Craig could help find some people around the country that want to craft a proposal to make the platform process sane. Then we could put this next thing into the process where it would be doable. To have an individual debate about that and not have it hijacked by 3,282 other issues. So we could present us, we've never done anything at the national level except send me over there. We could present Hawaii as being the leadership party on a critical issue in the party process. We can start there.
I'll second your motion.
Thank you.
And the motion again is
To revise the platform process to allow continuous changes.
Yeah, that's a good generic.
Yeah.
And to revise the process in some manner to allow ongoing amendments.
Did we vote on the first motion, or we didn't?
Yes.
Continue.
It was consensus.
Should be a living document.
I think we're coming to that. As an example, just think for a second, the different positions in Hawaii, 40 organizations, and that's, so in no way was I trying to say it was black and white. I was attempting to just, and I am stoked at the discussion, because out of the woodwork comes everybody that was feeling similar, and the fear, because it is such a passion issue. And it's not Israel, it's not Jews, it's Israelis. But it had that as a definite position, and I just want to underline Keiko's things about the military, because that's the tension, because you can't act in the Middle East without realizing where the United States' position has been for years. On that note, I think I'm really stoked that we had these heavy discussions on new business. We
Can, as the last item, can I ask Keiko whether she wants to make a motion, whether the Hawaii Party wants to deal with the GPUS military stands for military money toward Israel?
I think that would be a smarter suited violence platform consistent with that.
I would, just as a friendly reminder, I would read it because it's part of that. It's to devolve, Israel is apartheid, and remove all military aid, and there's some people feel this is the position I'm taking. If you remove all military aid to Israel in 10 days, the country's gone. So,
What do you mean? Oh, you mean the country?
yeah.
I can send you
World War
links
III.
on the
Right.
appropriate.
Right. So I would just say, read it, and then I could,
For the future.
yeah, it's all the future. It's Governor Keiko for the future.
Governor Keiko.
Or Congresswoman Keiko, first district.
I hope so.
Motion to adjourn.
Wait, we have a wrap up. We have 14.
Jeff's
Oh.
proposal.
14.
Shut my mouth.
Okay.
Did we do a consensus on the,
That's just kind of hard
yeah,
up.
so where are we at
Yeah,
on that one?
have we, you didn't ask for questions or concerns about Jeff's motion?
I thought it was, I apologize, I thought there was a consensus to that, and so if I missed that. Oh, okay, thank you, because I got a feeling, and, because someone called Charles, I cut him off before, and I thought he wanted to say something, Charles, I felt bad. So, okay, does people see, and you see it's a couple things, but a consensus to people, Jeff's proposal about the changing the platform structure of the national party, and at the same time, simultaneously, some people were gonna look at verbiage, look at that particular issue, and come back to us via, I guess, email, because we're not having a state meeting until next year. Yeah. Yeah, Keiko, that's one issue of many in the platform, it just was one that gets me. For example, the Green Party's against charter schools. And I spoke against that as a teacher.
We're getting like.
Okay, next,
Yeah, but
next, no, I know, that's why the platform is, Charles,
There's a motion on the
Charles,
table.
no, I think by consensus, everyone agreed, am I right or wrong?
Yes, you're right.
Okay.
Right, now, Charles, I cut you off before just trying to keep but you wanted to say something, and I apologize for that, but I wanted to try to keep it on the staff.
No, I was only gonna echo what, Keiko was saying about, Israel. I was saying that Obama had just went to Israel to meet up with Bibi, and basically made it clear that, they're inseparable. Okay, between Israel, Bibi and, Obama. That's all I wanted to say. By the way, I'm very much pro-Palestinian, just for you. I blog constantly about IP and Syria and Iraq and Iran, etc. Right now, Iran is the next on the hit list, besides Syria. just my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're moved to,
So,
oh,
let me just clarify
Yeah.
though, you're not gonna take a stance at all then? You're not going to a two-party, you're not gonna change it from one,
One state to a two state, no,
No.
we just
just
don't want,
eliminating all of Hawaii's
Yeah.
positioning.
we're not taking a stance at all
Okay.
on it.
Because then,
Yeah.
They
Well,
can
that-
change
there
the
are
other
people in
platforms.
Hawaii,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of them,
Yeah.
especially in the indigenous peoples movement around the world,
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
America's gotten involved in a lot of military aid, not just to Israel, all over the world, and that's where they come together. That's why the Lions are.
No stance at all, correct?
yes.
Right.
no, the idea, again, yes, is that's why I was not saying, just a discussion to get people's feelings. And, I consider myself pro-Palestinian too, but that has ramifications. So yes, it's to look at that. We have two things. That position, that we don't feel we should even have that in our platform. Am I right? I'm gonna make clarification. We should not even have that issue, the Middle East,
Yes.
in the platform. But keep in mind, read the platform, because there's a whole bunch of positions we take, like I said,
Yeah,
charter
I know,
positions.
but on
The
the
other
Middle
one
East-
is that we're talking about changing the platform process nationwide, instead of a platform committee.
What I wanna know is, I haven't read the whole platform for many years, but is there anything about military, because the Greens internationally have.
I think
Sort
that
of
there is
stand-
something about our military interventions, I think
Right.
it's a different area of the platform.
Yes.
Because I
Yeah.
think what you're saying is very valid, and I think Greens have addressed, don't spend money to destroy local indigenous cultures or run ramshackles.
That's what it
But
was,
we
yeah.
Or
specified.
hijack our budget for everything else at
Yeah.
home
Right.
for the military.
I sort of thought something's like there, I haven't read it lately, but I think that it's there, but also there's the Palestinian thing, that some people just think we have to worry about the Palestinian and focus all of our efforts on that.
I know.
But I think that the bigger picture of the military aid is not just Palestinian, as you well know.
Bob is totally correct. There's separate sections of the
I think there is.
platform. There's the military one that you mentioned, it, nonviolence and all that. And then there's the Middle East that they take a position just of that.
So we
Julie.
start
Well,
here.
just as an overall theme, to me, the problem with the platform is that we think we should micromanage and weigh in on so many things. I mean,
Yeah.
we boil down to, like, I remember just very briefly being in the platform committee meeting in, I don't know, mid-2000s. And the issue was they were pushing that we should take a position that we oppose all x-rays because x-rays are overdone and they can cause cancer. And it's like, well, that's a ridiculous position that doesn't have, whether anyone needs any given x-ray, well, that's a decision about between they and their doctor and various things. But, so we just tend to make a million positions on issues. We think we might weigh in on, green apples are better than red apples, or, something like that. But, anyway.
Okay. Yeah, when someone raises their hand, that's not to cut the other person off, it's just to notice me, so thanks. So, Julie, if you're finished, Jeff, you're next.
New business. I'm not sure we heard everything everybody had to bring up, but I got one item left.
All right, so we're still on new business, and I'm gonna ask that, can we go another 3 seconds? Because we're way over time. Go ahead.
I wanted
That
to
was a
talk
joke.
about money, and, Julie gave us a report about what our balance is in the bank, and then I've seen some money flying to the end of the table. So we probably have over $500, and I wonder if we shouldn't let it be known that we'll allocate another $500 when it's needed for this lawsuit. There's no better thing to do with the money than spend it, so we have to go bust ass and raise some more in this particular case. So I want us to think about that, or decide now. And I think we need to be a little more aggressive about getting some money instead of being so passive like we have been for a decade. Should we declare another 500 available for the lawsuit?
I think that's
A little premature.
foolhardy to emptying our budget when we don't know. Sometimes, if I may,
Yes, you may.
it takes money to make money. And to just blow $500 and have $0 or $70 or $20 in the treasury is not good management. It's foolhardy. I don't think it's a good way. If we can raise another 500, sure, send off 500 or 600. But do we know we can raise all that money? I wouldn't count on it. And just because we ought to do it doesn't mean we're gonna do it. I mean, it's like spending money we don't have. I'd like to save at least $200 or $300 so we can do notifications or other things, and I think this is too late in the meeting to discuss giving all $500 of our just filled budget or treasury away.
Well, it's kind of a proposition to spur us to do something about getting more money in the bank account. We need to get a staff, because we have a project going, and, you know, we just kinda say, oh, it's okay, we got a few hundred for next year, and that's not okay.
I don't want to cut an artery and go, well, you know, maybe we ought to get some blood.
Keiko and then, Mark.
Okay, I was surprised, Lance got the 500,
He threatened me, he's my personal attorney. You know how much thousands I paid him?
Anyway, but thank you for suggesting that, Jeff, but I think we should do a fundraiser, and I'd like to email everyone and start planning something like that, so that we can bring in more people than ourselves, giving money to this effort, not just Greens, but everybody else that wants to come to a green event. And, we'll do one on this island, one on Oahu.
Yeah, we can do one on the outer island of Oahu. Mark?
Outer island of Oahu.
In the rural and urban areas of Hawaii. That's what I usually call it, rural and urban.
Okay, Mark and then Bob.
That's what I was gonna say, we can do fundraisers to come up with this 500, you know, let's go down the campus down there and say, we're suing the state of Hawaii, we're the Green Party. Oh, you are, you're against them, you know, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, this is what we're doing, let's have some fundraisers for that.
Yeah, I think that's what Jeff.
Bob?
Let's raise 5,000, not 500.
Nothing.
Yeah, we always have to raise money on everything. Tomorrow is Earth Day on Maui. And
We can talk about it online.
Yeah, there could be more. I mean, Renee's point about having more communication back and forth, we do need that. Wrap up. We need to clean up the room, and Renee, I'm going with you, and I'm totally available for that. And I just, some quick input, if it's too late in the day, I can see everyone jumping up. But for me, I just want to thank Bob, Julie, Mark, the people from here who organized this, because again, you know, to have this here was great, and everybody that came, and then just input to make it, we had lots of time, and then we ran out of time, so it's always, time is always a something. But, so if I see no other comments, I'm going to call the meeting at 5:47, adjourned.
Thanks, Becky.
5:45.
Did he get your hammer?
No, it's the other way around,
Plan,
yeah.
right?
I just knew it was there, right?
5:49.
Okay. It wouldn't be the first time I'd